In Chapter 8, we're going to start looking at chromosomes and we're going to be looking at cell division. So in 8.1, we'll look at chromosomes and the different parts of a chromosome and things like that. So first of all, chromosome is a rod-shaped structure that's made of DNA. So if you look here, you can see this whole thing is a chromosome, and it's got DNA wrapped up really, really tightly inside. So this whole thing here is where that DNA is getting uncoiled and stretched out, basically. Histones are where the DNA can kind of wrap itself around and help it to pack even more tightly. So if we look at that chromosome again, if you're familiar with like a spool of yarn and the yarn itself is wound up and tighter, but you can unwind that spool of yarn and stretch it out. So basically DNA, the twisted ladder that we're familiar with, gets wound up and kind of coiled up on those histones, and then those get wrapped up even more and more and more and packed into the chromosome. One half of a chromosome is called a chromatid. So we have a yellow half and a blue half on this one. And when cells divide, that chromosome gets split in half, and one of the chromatids goes to half of the cell that's split, and then the other one goes to the other half. A centromere is that middle point where the two chromatids attach. Chromatin is where that DNA is unwound from the chromosome and it's stretched out quite a bit, but not fully into the DNA structure that we commonly think of. So different organisms have different numbers of chromosomes, and it would make sense to think that the more chromosomes something has, the more complex that organism might be. But really, that's not necessarily the case. If you look at some of these things, beans have 22 chromosomes. Humans have 46. The duck shown below, 80. Tobacco has more chromosomes than humans. So just because something has more chromosomes doesn't necessarily mean that it's a more complex organism. But there can be lots of different variations within that species that can allow for lots of different chromosomes. Sex chromosomes help determine the sex of an organism. They make something either male or female, carry certain traits on those. So there are some traits that only males have, where females may not be able to have that trait. They are determined by X and Y chromosomes. So if it has two X's, the organism would be a female. If it has an X and a Y, it would be a male. All other chromosomes are called autosomes. And so these are going to be for all the other different cells and functions and traits in our body. Next, we're going to look at homologous chromosomes. So here, these are two copies of each chromosome. They are going to be the same size and shape and have the same information on those chromosomes. So they're just paired up. So in humans, we have 22 homologous pairs. So 22 pairs for a total of 44 chromosomes. And then we also have a pair of sex chromosomes. So that would be the additional 2 to get us to 46. A karyotype is like a map of all of our chromosomes. It's a picture showing us what all of our chromosomes look like. So here's an example. And so you can see there's 22 pairs, and those pairs are different sizes and a little bit different shapes than the others. And then the last pair is going to be our sex chromosomes. So females will have two X and males will have an X and a Y. I want to look at this next website to show you what you can see on each chromosome. So if I'm looking, let's say, at chromosomes that are in the 8th pair or the 15th pair, these are going to have different information than, say, the 11th pair. So if we look at this website, it can show us what is on each different set of chromosomes. So if we click on, right now it's on chromosome number 18, things that can be found on chromosome 18. So traits for schizophrenia, all kinds of different things. Pancreatic cancer, how likely are you to genetically have an increase for that? If we look at maybe chromosome number 6, there are 170 million base pairs. So we'll talk about base pairs later, but if you're familiar with A, T, C, and G, all of these different things can be found on chromosome number 6. Lots of different things there. And that's just on number 6. So, and 6 goes on and on and on. So each chromosome is going to give us lots of different information. And then we have what are called diploid versus haploid cells. So a diploid is going to be where we have two sets of every chromosome. So here, this would be a diploid type set. So 2, 2, 2. Haploid would be if we're just looking at half of those. So here, this is a human, so we've got 26 sets. So there would be 46 chromosomes for that diploid versus the haploid number would be, 46 for diploid and 23 for haploid.